Hello, I'm Timothy Scott. On a previous video, I shared that long-term antidepressant use is associated with liver damage, diabetes, tardive dyskinesia, some of the same problems caused by antipsychotics. These are serious health problems. But of course, depression is also a very serious problem. The logical question may be, don't you believe that some people would be willing to risk their physical health if they could be helped emotionally? My answer is absolutely, yes they would. But there's a problem with that question. Though people taking antidepressants generally believe the antidepressants do work, in fact, study after study has found that antidepressants are only slightly better than placebos. And when we compare an antidepressant with an active placebo, that's a placebo that causes some of the same side effects, such as a dry mouth, as an antidepressant, they are no better. So it's a placebo effect. In fact, when we compare, for example, the herb St. John's wort with antidepressants, St. John's wort works just as well. And it has fewer side effects. Acupuncture works just as well. Even negative ion generators work just as well as an antidepressant, even when the negative ion generators are not plugged in, assuming the subjects don't know that fact. No, there are far better options than taking an antidepressant for depression. One of those options, and I can mention many, but let's just do one. Exercise. You realize we have many studies comparing exercise and antidepressants. Duke University did a number of these. One of their early studies established 3 groups. One group did exercise 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week. Another group took antidepressants. And a third group did exercise plus the antidepressant. They assumed the third group, of course, would do the best. But at 16 weeks, there were no differences. At 10 months, the exercise-only group had the least amount of depression. Not surprising, since antidepressants have side effects that can take an emotional toll. Another logical question that could be asked, how can these antidepressants be approved by the FDA if they do not work except for the placebo effect? Well, we must understand that depression is not like other health problems. If you had cancer and we're trying a new cancer drug, we're going to have what we call an objective endpoint. In other words, does this new drug actually increase or decrease the number of white blood cells? If you had diabetes, we could give you a new diabetes drug, and we could find, does it actually affect your glucose level? Or if you had bacterial meningitis, we could give you a new antibiotic and see, does it actually kill the bacteria? These are objective endpoints. With depression, we simply ask the very subjective question, how do you feel? And that question is open to manipulation. And in fact, the studies have been manipulated. The Freedom of Information Act allows us to get the studies from the FDA that led to the approval of the SSRI antidepressants. There are 47 studies submitted for the first 6 antidepressants. And what we know is the following, that whenever a subject did not respond well to an antidepressant within 2 weeks, they simply removed that subject and replaced him with someone else. That's not fair. That's not honest. That's not good science. But that's what was literally done in case after case. We also know that in 27 of the 47 studies submitted, subjects were given a chloral hydrate. That's a sedative. Of course, antidepressants cause agitation in a lot of subjects, and so they'd give the sedative. But then the question is it the sedative or is it the antidepressant? There's no way to know. It's a terrible study design. But this is what happens when we allow the drug companies to design, conduct, write up, and submit the studies to the FDA that lead to the approval of these drugs. There is one other logical question we must ask. Why have we not heard more about these facts? Why have we not heard about how these studies were designed? And there's a simple one-word answer. Money. There is very little money to be made by sharing the facts about the drug studies and what the adverse effects of these drugs are. There are vast sums that could be made by promoting these drugs. In fact, if we look at just the top 2 antidepressants currently, they are now making over $140 million per week for the drug companies. Not per year, per week. There's another fact. Those of us who are trying to get this information out are often stifled. After I published my book, America Fooled, I decided we needed to have ads in the leading medical journals. I contacted the advertising department at the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA. They suggested I buy the page opposite the table of contents. Drug companies generally don't want that page. They need 3 or 4 or 5 pages at a time. And that single page is seen a lot, so it's a good page to buy. And I agreed. I had the ad prepared. I submitted it. But then I got a call, not from the advertising department, but from the editorial department. And they said, "Dr. Scott, we're sorry, but we cannot print the ad for your book." Why not? Well, it was not because the book is sensational. It is not. Every fact is carefully documented. It was not because the ad was sensational. It was not. The reason they gave was, it's just too politically sensitive. In other words, the #1 source of revenue for JAMA are the drug ads. And the antipsychotic and antidepressant drug ads form the #1 source of revenue among all the categories of drugs. They just did not want to risk upsetting the folks that support their journal. You can see that there's a battle here. I'm on the side that says everyone taking these drugs should know some of the health consequences. They should know. They have a right to know. And yet getting that information out is not easy. I hope that you will join with me. I believe it's a very moral thing to do, to share with people this information. I encourage you to let those friends and family members you have who are taking these drugs or who might take these drugs, let them know this information.